Alright everyone, welcome back to Frostbite League. We're bringing you the final match of week 5 tonight. I am Yesone and I am joined by Coco on the mic. Coco, how are we
Hello.
doing?
We're doing pretty good today.
We
Yeah.
vibing? We having a good time?
We're chilling. Nice,
Excellent.
nice match to finish the day off. Had one in the afternoon, now we're having a second one. Well, not really afternoon, but like, before dinner.
Absolutely, yeah. Pre-dinner and post-dinner matches. Plenty of Splatoon content to go out to your Oceania region. We're happy to bring you this match today. We have Jakarta Thunder and the Sydney Cyclones facing off today. Why don't you, Coco, would you be able to take us through a bit of Jakarta Thunder's lineup?
So Jakarta Thunder today, actually we have Jack, T, Will, Lobster Guy, Goy, and Amy Psycho. This team is, to be honest, pretty strong. You have Jack, which is kind of their main shooter player and Slayer, and he's a really scary person to fight. If you've ever played, a match against him, you know how difficult it is to even fight him. So he's gonna be a really strong force to be reckoned with for Jakarta Thunder. And you also have Will. Will and Jack were teammates before. They were on Lime Soda and Full Send. And so, their teamwork can also may trip up Sydney here because, they're well accustomed to working with each other and they can play off one another as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We've also got quite a bit of flexibility in weapon comps here, with Goy also able to run quite a lot of different weapons, and T's E-Leader gets a lot of shout-outs on this stream. And if you don't know why, you will see why as we go into some games with them. Assuming they're playing today, we don't 100% know that.
Yeah, T's leader, I'd just like to bring up, so, looking at Sydney now, right? Sydney has a really aggressive lineup, and the past few weeks they've actually been playing NZAP coming up from Lumi, and they have this Bucket and Tetra comp, which is pretty aggressive. Right, and this comp, this comp is very prone to getting picked out by an E-Leader, especially on some of these maps. You have Splat Zone's Umami as our first map today. And that's kind of one map where E-Leader is actually really strong. They can just position themselves on that middle pillar, and it just makes it extremely hard for them to get in, especially considering, the weapons that Sydney plays is kind of short, I think, if I'm not wrong.
Yep. Yeah, we definitely saw the E-Leader getting some damage in earlier. But yeah, Jakarta currently coming into the series with an 0 for 3. So no opportunity for them to place, but they do have the opportunity to steal it from the Sydney Cyclones.
Yeah, certainly.
Quickly talk about them as well. We've got Kojuke, Kazaz, Mars, MGJ, Lumi, and Link on this team. As you've already mentioned, a very aggressive set of weapons run by this team. They are very fast moving and very high damage up close weapons. So yeah, it's hard to hold a defensive line against a team like Sydney, and it will be an interesting challenge for Jakarta to have to overcome. They have a very good defensive line, and we'll see if they can hold back. You've already mentioned we're going to Splat Zone Zumami first as well.
Yeah, this game, I would say, if T's playing this one, I'd say this is kind of like unstoppable force versus immovable object kind of scenario.
Absolutely,
On one hand, you have Sydney Cyclones, unstoppable force. They just move up and delete everything because, they play really quickly, they're really aggressive. On the other hand, you have Jakarta, which can play, can afford to play a little bit slower. They got that big bubbler to kind of hold ground, and they have that E-Leader that just stops pushes. So it'll be a very interesting match today to watch.
Yeah, the first game here is really going to enlighten about which of these strategies is going to come out on top. Jakarta Thunder, very well known for their ability to take retakes at the precise moment they need to. They'll coordinate specials and cap a zone 1 point out from a lead change. They will, until that point, bide their time, make sure their players are ready so that they can guarantee that retake. That kind of patience is something that could be beneficial to them if they have the members of Sydney just rushing at them and they're just slowly taking picks and biding their time and then capitalizing all at once, there's a good chance for Jakarta to overcome that aggression. But they have to be able to land the shots. And against the swarm of Sydney Cyclone, it's going to be a challenge.
The swarm of Cyclones.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Like, they often play a very stacks on mentality. I've seen several clips where Sydney Cyclones have all 4 of their players within a couple inklings of each other, just swarming and moving as a group, attacking in all directions, focus firing on specific individuals. If you're in range of one Sydney Cyclones player, chances are you're in range of quite a few more.
They you know, one of the ways you can describe their playstyle is that they play like a blob, like literally. They're just a blob of players, massive meat moving up, deleting everything in its path, insatiable. Yeah.
And it's hard to counter that because when you have a mix of a few different weapon types in that cluster, there's no one weapon you can outplay, right? You can't just think, oh, I have to stay out of range of the splash, or I have to time my shots around the gal, because they're all together, and there's no like one opening in that scenario. So you really need to be using your subs and specials to take that down, or just play at really long range. Which we might see today. I don't see T in the opening roster though, so that might not be on the cards for Jakarta today.
Maybe they have a different plan, you know, instead of sticking with the immovable object strategy. Maybe they're hoping to counter with their own unstoppable force.
That would be very enticing to see, something I haven't seen from Jakarta yet, but if they can bring the thunder, I'm here to see it.
Oh yeah.
Alright, we have our players locking in weapons now. A very quick lock-in from Sydney.
Yes, Sydney has, I think, 3 or 4 of their players already readied up, so it seems like they have a plan, even though chat can't see the lobby screen.
Yeah. I will note, Sydney does vary their comps up quite a bit. A lot of their players can play weapons with quite a bit of difference to them. So while they are generally aggressive, we've seen Kazaz pull out a tent. You know, they have these back pocket crazy picks, and they can really shock the opponent if they get a bit of momentum going. You know, Kat seems to think this is going to be a bit of a Sydney sweep, but we'll see about that.
We'll see about that, yeah. You know, as you mentioned, these players are really flexible. You know, a player like Link, who plays usually an aggressive bucket, you might not expect to actually pull out a ballpoint, which he has in previous weeks, and even in some scrims as well. So yeah, these players are able to adapt very quickly, and if Jakarta here is changing up their strategy to be more of an unstoppable force, we might see some adaptation coming out from Sydney.
Alright, well, we don't have to wait any longer. Our players are locked in and ready to go. And with that, we begin round 1. Splatzone's Umami. Let's see what our players are bringing to today's set. Will we have any surprises? Nothing immediately too surprising. We've got the 96 there on both teams, actually.
From both teams, yeah, and they seem to be running the exact same comp.
Oh, wow. Yep, and very similar abilities as well. We have all 4 players on Sydney running that stuff comp.
It seems like Sydney's... Jakarta's trying to mimic, you know, Sydney's kind of success here, right? Sydney kind of playing this really aggressive style, and it seems like Jakarta might be trying to mimic that. We see Sydney kind of just getting an early lockout here, immediately pushing back some people, and
not an overwhelming amount of splats either. They're just really honing that control. It seems like Sydney probably more confident with this kind of strategy than Jakarta is, but our teams are just warming up. You know, we've got a Kraken splat there. And beverages coming out as well for Jakarta, so they have a good chance to come in for a retake here.
They're juiced up.
Juiced up and ready to go.
Yeah, both teams are immediately trying to contest zone now, and we do see that Sydney still manages to hold throughout that push. You know.
Yeah, Sydney notably only losing a single player from that push, and with only 20 points remaining and no penalty, this is Jakarta's last chance before this first game is over quite quickly.
Special's already being popped from Sydney here, and yeah, 2 players up left. This is over. That's the Sydney win, baby. Sydney sweep coming in.
Okay. Well, we did reference it briefly earlier. Sydney still have a chance to make it into the top 3 teams. They've lost 2 matches, so they can't afford to lose any more. If they can get a clean 2 wins off their next 2, they have a good chance of making it to the final 3. Jakarta don't have that luxury, but they can absolutely deny Sydney. So any points they can take away from Sydney here is a point that they have made it much more difficult for Sydney to succeed. So it's kind of a grudge match more than anything.
Yeah. If Sydney, if not Sydney, if Jakarta wants to just be an absolute hater, they can choose to just edge it out, get all the games they can, you know,
Absolutely.
and even take the win from them.
If they do lose today, they can just say that they wanted Sydney to make it, and they were being good sports. All right, well, that is our first game resolutely in favor of Sydney Cyclones, which means we're going to go to counter picks, which means we can have a look at our Week 5 map pool. Coco, what maps on here are looking enticing to you?
I think, especially considering Jakarta's lineup today, we might actually see them opt for a little bit of a more aggressive strategy. Usually, in previous weeks, they'd kind of opt for splat zones and tower control, right? But, you know, we might see them perhaps pick, you know, Rainmaker Mako Mart this time.
I mean, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Rainmaker Mako Mart, a very fast-moving map, will play into these teams' aggressive strategy. In fact, I believe we have the pick, and it is Rainmaker Mako. Well predicted, Coco. Well done. It's a bit of a joke there. We kind of knew ahead of time. So yeah, Rainmaker Mako, with the players that we've currently seen, and we've seen Rainmaker Mako played a lot this week because it's a very popular Rainmaker map. You've got some very fun strategies you can employ here. Do you think we're going to see any weapon changes from Jakarta to play this map, or do you think we'll probably see what we saw there with the copying of Sydney's comp?
I do feel like we might not even see... we might actually not even see a change, you know. Slosher, this is one of the maps that Slosher is actually kind of strong on. So, you know, you have Will kind of chilling on that Slosher, which is very strong, and he has to go up against Link, who is really competent. As for the other members, I feel that we might potentially see a Blob come out, perhaps. You know, this map has 2 chokes, and you know, Lobster Guy is actually pretty good of the Blob. You know, back in the day. You know, Blob really holds checks well, and this is kind of one of those maps that I feel like it could be effective. You know, you hold down that left check by just spamming blobs in there, and if the enemy decides to rotate around, it's also extremely possible for them to shut it down.
Oh, 100%. I mean, like, a Blob Lover with Object Shredder against a Rainmaker Shield can solo hold against 2 players pretty comfortably. So that kind of pressure can really allow your team to pull some shenanigans at other parts of the map. Especially when you have the lead. Alright, round 2.
So let's see if our predictions are correct.
I mean, I'd love it, but... Ooh, a Splatter Shot Pro, actually! Pro? Yeah,
and no change coming out from Sydney.
I believe we have Army on the Junior as well. Army, a great support player. So the Junior going to be quite effective here in some bomb spam. Early Rainmaker pop, no one goes down. Good control from both players. Let's see how this opening skirmish shakes out.
Yeah, this mid control on this map is especially important, and going down in the first 30 seconds can kind of really influence how the game kind of pans out here. We have coolers already being popped from Sydney, and you can actually see that you know, both teams are kind of trading blows right now. You know, 2 down for both teams, and it seems like neither team is kind of letting up ground. They both know how important holding mid is, especially on this map. Ooh, and it appears that no team's getting lovely bomb snipe from Amy Psycho though.
Exactly, and we have a Rainmaker opportunity coming from that. The Suction Bomb's going to scare Amy just away from the platform, which is going to buy a bit more time for Jakarta, but they're looking good to take this checkpoint here. No, they were shut down. Kazaz on the top shelf is going to stop that one in its tracks, and with the Tri-Strike coming out as well, that is going to be a stop to that. Sydney with a clutch stop, that would have been a very costly checkpoint for them if that had gone through.
We do see Zuka actually taking out a fair few people here. One Jack, their main slayer, going down, and it seems like Sydney kind of gets free control of mid here. You know, Jakarta is kind of forced to just play it a little bit safe, as they can't immediately rush into mid, and Sydney immediately able to push in, but gets stalked by Lobster Guy coming in from the rail.
That was a very lucky stop because it is very hard to defend this area of the map when your opponent has the high ground. So Lob being able to come in from the side with that pro really just allowed them to regain control and retain lead. That's huge for the course of this match. We are going to see a reset, and we've got quite a few specials on both sides. So it's going to come down to an all-out Splatfest at this point. Wherever the Splats go is where the Rainmaker's going to follow.
Yeah, we see 2 down already coming down from Sydney, but 2 down also coming down from Jakarta here. Both teams are aggressively fighting for mid, and we do see a Crab kind of popped just to secure mid for Jakarta here.
Oh, Kraken's going to try to contest, but it does not have a lot of room to maneuver. If it can't get a splat, that is going to be very dangerous. Gets covered by the Tri-Strike on the way out, though. That is very convenient. Looks like Bright Goal is tainted as well.
That Trizuka is just kind of preventing them from going up, and we do see the bubbler being popped on left, just to ensure. But Louis taking it right, just like last game. You know, you have that kind of split-second change in the route that you want to take, and that could mean the entire difference. You know, staying in mid in this game.
Sydney were playing both paths there. It was quite impressive to see they had 2 frontline aggressors on the left path, which was drawing the defense away. Which allowed the remaining players who were holding back to get their pick of the 2 options. It's really impressive.
You can kind of think of it like a bait out, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, and Link actually getting 2 kills from the bomb and Tri-Strike combo there, and that could be another initiation. Yeah.
Yeah, with Crab defending, that will buy a bit of time for Jakarta, but if they're not able to get some control over the map, that Rainmaker is in a very nasty spot.
Link's just striking around here, waiting for some picks.
Yeah, okay, we do have the Rainmaker reset there. Trizuka's going to come out and try and find some picks. We've got 1:30 on the clock. There has been no progress past the checkpoint. So if Jakarta can reach the checkpoint in the next 30 seconds, they can easily take the lead.
But it seems like Sydney is kind of already responding with a push of their own. Jack striking mid, able to stop it, and getting 2 down from Sydney.
Unfortunately, they were the last one up, so they're not able to capitalize further from that sharking opportunity. But they find another one with the Trizuka. This is looking like a decent chance for Jakarta. They don't have the map control quite yet, but they do have the specials and player number to make something happen.
Yeah, both teams are 4 up right now, and we do see MDJ kind of flanking around. It really depends on how... It will really depend on how Jakarta plays this. If they kind of bide their time in mid here, that's going to be a bit of a problem for them.
The Kraken comes out to shut down the
already
Rainmaker.
coming out to chase them. And yeah, there we go, you know, staying in mid kind of made them lose ground here. Jakarta already popping specials, and they've already stalled out the push a lot, so they kind of have their feet back on the ground here. Jakarta though, taking it right.
Yeah, I don't think they have a lot of time left with the Rainmaker as well. No, they're down to only 15 seconds with the Rainmaker, so they have to make a play now. They're not going to get overtime if they don't make something happen. And unfortunately,
we do see MGJ coming up with a surprise kill. And that seems like it will be game. Second game goes to Sydney.
But that was so close. I mean, we didn't see either team make it past the checkpoint. Like, that is a much closer game there. And really, we saw a lot of benefit to Jakarta's strategy. They had a very solid defensive line when they needed it. They just had a bit of trouble staying up to convert their splats into progress. We saw the moment there where we had, I believe it was Jack sharking on stack. They got 2 splats, they cleaned up the Rainmaker push, and if they had a teammate with them, they could have absolutely reached checkpoint. But because the rest of their team had gone down to different fights, they just had to kind of stick around and, weren't able to get the points they were hoping for. So it kind of just seems like the Sydney Cyclones are swarming members of Jakarta, and Jakarta just don't have the manpower to get points. It's going to be difficult for them to overcome this strategy.
It seems like, it seems like this time we do have Sydney just executing the unstoppable force strategy better than Jakarta can. And Yeah, their mastery over this strategy will probably bring them to the win here if Jakarta is unable to adapt.
Well, they're already half the way there.
Yeah, and we do see counter picks. We have Jakarta actually counter picking Tower Control Manta Maria. What do you think of this
Okay.
map, Yasoan?
I mean, look,
Anyway.
we've seen this map come up in every match of this week, which isn't something I normally expect. It's a map that supports niche weapons that do indirect damage, but players have consistently picked it because it's slower. We will very rarely see a knockout on this match. We haven't so far in the series. And I think that just comes down to how difficult it is to push that tower past second checkpoint. We've got a lot of indirect.
Excellent point.
We've got a lot of indirect weapons in play as well. A lot of players here play Slosher, and it's a great Slosher map. We've got lots of very thin walls that Sloshers love to play around. Yeah, I just don't know if slowing it down is what Jakarta Thunder need, because Sydney will eventually, given enough time, get the splats they need to get points. Whereas Jakarta, I feel like they would excel more in a bursty strategy. So we'll see how this one pans out. Like, Rainmaker was very close. Tower Control is going to be a bit up in the air as I'm reading it currently.
Whichever team is able to kind of make it and break through that second checkpoint will definitely be on track to winning this next game. But it's even a question if teams are able to, kind of go up to that second checkpoint and break that second checkpoint in the first place.
Yeah. We see a lot of fights happening in mid that result in trades, and when you go down to a 2v2 situation, that is not enough players to push the tower. You need at least 3 players on your team to get to those checkpoints. So if we see a lot of trades, we just won't see a lot of momentum.
Yeah, and good point about the indirect damage. We see actually Link switching to Machine here, which has kind of better indirect damage than Slosher can, as it has that AoE effect.
I do like seeing the Flingser coming out as well. Flingser very good for this map traditionally because it has a lot of lines it can chuck bombs around, and generally gets a lot of use out of its jump swing.
Yes, so on. This Flingser has mines.
This Flingser has mines? Oh, sorry, I only play the one with bombs. I don't touch this one, but mines make sense for tower control. We don't see it a lot, but it can buy you tower control, if you'll excuse the unintentional pun. Being able to get on the tower and have it already be pre-painted your color because your mine's gone off can be quite effective. We have Lob going down for a 2-for-1 trade, which leaves us very neutral in mid. No checkpoints being cleared yet, but the jumps coming in a bit faster for Sydney, meaning they are probably in... Oh, sorry, for Jakarta, meaning they're probably in a better situation to make something happen here.
It is a blood buff right now, but we do actually see Link. Never mind, Link gets caught out. And Jakarta just immediately making this first push, wasting no time getting through that checkpoint. And Sydney kind of has to get their... They gotta wake up, they gotta get their defenses together here. It's a bit jarring for them, especially since, they just died as well.
We saw Kazaz trying to defend that tower with the Trizuka, but unfortunately it has a hard time getting around the middle spike on the tower. Ooh, we have MGJ using that Kraken to secure the objective, but then
Jack gets a 2 in mid.
Whoa, that's pretty big. We do have a pretty isolated Jakarta Thunder off to the left side here, but they should be able to convert this to some more points. Maybe not to the checkpoint, but...
You do see Link drawing attention away from tower as well, and is able to get people back into mid. Will gets caught out, and Jack as well. 2 down coming out from Jakarta. This could be an opportunity for Sydney to get the push off of their own.
Aim and Saika actually able to keep themselves up with the big bubbler and bring in a jump for Will as well. It was looking positive for them, but both of them have now gone down. I mean, no one's on the tower yet for Sydney, but they do have a significant player advantage. It's a 4v1 currently against Jack. Jack stands no chance. And that's a first checkpoint. That was essentially
a delayed wipe. You saw that kind of 2 members going down at the same time. Lobster and Jack just kind of slowly fell. And we do see Sydney getting past the first checkpoint and making it to that second checkpoint.
Ooh, we got MGJ up on the walls with that Kraken. That is fun to see. Unfortunately, not finding anyone. Tri-Strike is going to stall out the tower for just a moment and allow Lob to come in and get that splat. Kazaz and Will fighting off to the side. Jack joins in and Kazaz goes down. This push is almost stopped, but there is a
we
gal.
do see actually members of Sydney are in Jakarta's base. This is a really precarious situation for Jakarta here. They have to balance kind of pushing and ensuring that these two members in their base don't get too much
Sharking Jack
ground.
will find him. Yeah, Sharking Jack manages to get MGJ on the retreat. Can they get Kazaz as well? No, they can't. Link gonna bring in the Booyah Bomb. I mean, yeah, it's very difficult to make an aggressive play when you know that your back isn't covered. That's usually a very safe place for the defending team. So to have to worry about that really is going to stall things out. Second checkpoint being cleared in favor of Sydney means Jakarta are going to have to put in some serious work in the next 90 seconds.
Yeah, you know, as I mentioned at the start of this game, breaking through the second checkpoint is really difficult, and the fact that Sydney has already done it makes it so that, you know, Jakarta needs to really one-up them here. It's really difficult to push past that choke point. So yeah, a lot is expected out of Jakarta here. We see 2 down coming out from Jakarta in the last minute.
And interesting thing about that play is MGJ pushed forward with the Kraken. They weren't necessarily able to get any picks, but they split Jakarta Thunder in half. Half of the players retreated forward and were wiped out. The other half retreated back. They weren't wiped out, but they were then 2 players down. So I think that's a very good use of Kraken. Yeah, I mean, with only 37 seconds left and a decent push mounting for Sydney, this is looking pretty curtains.
There are a few people kind of flanking Sydney right now. We have 3 members of Jakarta kind of closing in on tower here. And if they're not careful, this could lead to a wipe, but it appears that Sydney just does not care and just keeps pushing it, extending their score lead to 22.
Not as OP as it used to be, it's still very good. They do need to deal with MGJ here, and they have, but it does mean they're going to have to do the entirety of this push in overtime. Now, I don't know about you,
and it appears
but
that actually this is really precarious for them.
Yeah, we've already talked about how hard this checkpoint is. Now they have to do it in overtime. The tri-strike just shuts them out entirely. They do not have an opportunity, and that is going to be Sydney bringing it up to 3-0.
That was a crazy push coming up from Sydney. I'd just like to comment on that at the end. Sydney kind of just kept pushing. They did not care. They had that Kraken set up on tower, and it basically made it impossible for Jakarta to get rid of them. And it just extended their score lead further and also wasted their time, which all the more made it a bit more difficult for Jakarta to even win.
Yeah.
So now we have 3-0. 3-0 Sydney to Jakarta. One more game. You think we thinking reverse sweepable?
I mean, look, it's always possible.
It's always possible.
But like, just in that game alone, the number of Krakens MGJ got out, right? Like, they got out a Kraken at the end of that push where they got to the crazy scoreline. They also Krakened at the start of that push. They built a whole Kraken in that time period. Like, that is
just crazy like that.
Very hard to contest in tower control. Yeah, it's looking rough. I know that Jakarta does pick clams sometimes, and I'm wondering if that's the option we need to go for. It's going to be an uphill battle for sure. We've had multiple counter picks be turned down here. Sydney just seems to be quite unstoppable. Their playstyle seems to hard counter what Jakarta are putting down.
They're cycling through these picks. Goddamn. We do see a counter pick coming out, Inkblot CB, as you have predicted.
I think this is the best choice. Yeah, Clam Blitz makes a lot of sense. Jakarta Thunder can play Clam Blitz quite well. They have a lot of very good skirmishing weapons. And you can't just roll up as a quad in Clam Blitz. Because if you roll up as a quad, chances are you haven't gathered enough clams. You haven't secured an alternate entry point. There are just different considerations because of how the objective is scored that prevent you from acting as a tight-knit unit. And breaking up what Sydney Cyclones are doing right now, breaking up that Cyclone, is probably the best chance Jakarta have at breaking their coordination and potentially finding that weak point.
We also do see Sydney Cyclones actually subbing in Kojuke for Kiz. Subbing out the Ks for... I do think this might be a really good option for them. Koj has the option of playing ballpoint and also playing a more aggressive wiper or even a stamper. And that could be to their benefit here. Holding mid and defending basket is kind of difficult on this map. It's a very, very tight-knit map. You know, holding mid is probably one of the more important things to do. And
Yeah.
defending your own basket up that ramp is really difficult. So having maybe a ballpoint player can really help them break through defenses and also defend themselves. And
Yeah,
if Kodge
100%.
decides to go for, yeah, and if Kodge decides to go for a more aggressive pick, that could also work out for them. You know, this is again, I said this is a really tight knit map, so having aggression can work out in their favor. But if not done correctly, they can definitely get punished really hard.
Yeah, we saw Auckland Avalanche do an excellent defense of this last night. They dedicated all 4 players to defending the basket once they had established a strong enough lead, and it was very hard to break. And they did have a ballpoint as part of that defense. I mean, like, quite a few players in Frostbite are very cracked with an inkjet, and I think that's going to be an integral part of defending on this map. Yeah, that being said, it is a difficult map to control a lot of turf on while also playing objective. We've got a lot of side areas where clams can spawn. The stacks that a lot of the battles are going to focus around clam spawning spots. So we're going to see some interesting fights break out here.
Oh yeah, I agree.
Yeah. All right, chat. What do we think? Reverse sweep or just sweep?
Reverse sweepable?
I think it's reverse sweepable. I think it's going to take a serious momentum change, but it is definitely doable.
Starting out with our game here in the sky, we're about to go in what may be the final match of this set.
Okay, we've got the carbon coming out here from Will.
No ballpoint coming out from either team.
Okay, we're doing this essentially backlineless, but that's fine. That just means we're going to see a lot of dunks. I support this fully.
I support this fully, yeah. It's important to note that that Sydney's team structure here is kind of centered around this 2 support, 2 slayer idea. You have Kojuke and Link kind of playing as the slayer role here, and you have Lumi and MGJ kind of supporting, with Lumi providing the tacticooler, which just makes deaths not punishing, which is very important for their aggressive strategy.
100%. Alright, well, first 30 seconds, and we only have 1 player going down on either side. But we have MGJ initializing with a Kraken Royale, which allows Kojuke to rush in with an Ultra Stamp and fence 3 members of Jakarta in their base. That is going to give complete map control to Sydney, and they use that to get a power clan.
We do see Sydney having full control of mid here, but Jakarta putting up a very good defense using that crab to kind of scare away the power clam holder.
Yeah, that was a good play. The Tacticooler coming out as well allowed them to make that escape pretty much guilt-free. And they still have mid control, so they can make another attempt as soon as they have specials ready to go.
You see Tri-Strikes coming out here to initiate the push, but it doesn't seem like Sydney's able to capitalize on it.
Yeah, I think Sydney are looking for a splat, and they have it. Link has gotten a splat around the back. If they can they do get Will as well.
Gets 2 and gets a sneaky power climb as well.
Yeah, we have the Ultra Stamp up the front, gonna clean up Lob, and that is gonna be plenty of clams in now. Very well played by Sydney. They bided their time, they kept their map control, and as soon as they got the picks, they rolled on through. That is Clam Blitz 101.
This is a very scary position as well. You have Link positioned on top of the bats area together with Kojuke now, and that both getting pincered by a single Trizuka shot. Jack is too goated for this world, but unable to stop Sydney from scoring more points. It seems like that might be the end of the push, but 100 to 15 push is nothing to scoff at, especially clams.
That's an incredible result. Yeah, as you're mentioning, the bats area very hard to flush opponents out of traditionally, and it can really lead to extended pushes on this map. But we saw Sydney extend it just by rushing past and dodging enemy shots. Like, I guess when a junior's defending, you have that opportunity. Oh, Jack sneaks a power clam in while I wasn't even looking. They seem to have fallen that under the basket, which means, you know, they're probably not going to be able to get too many clams as a result of this. Will has a power clam. All right, actually, this is quite decent now. I was gonna say
this is quite this is shaping up to be a very good push for Jakarta as well.
Yeah.
But 48 to 15 still might look quite a bit scary, but you know, it's Clam Blitz. A lot of things can happen.
Half the work is done. I was gonna say
half the work is done.
When you sneak a power clam under the basket, usually your team isn't in a state to act on that, so usually you don't get too many extra clams. But we saw a great flank come out from Amasaika and Jack on the side. they were able to very quickly clean up and get quite a lot of clams in.
So yeah, now both teams are kind of duking it out for mid here. We see some specials, especially Tri-Strike being popped, and Jakarta Thunder has 2 specials, notably a Crab and a Big Bubbler, readied up.
Link trading out with Will on plat means that we don't really have anyone defending Jakarta's basket right now. They don't really need to because there's no power clams on the opponent's side yet. And we can see they've now fallen back because they're very aware that there's a Kraken Royale push happening.
Oh yeah. As you know, a really consistent theme. A really consistent theme with Sydney here is that they always use the Kraken to kind of initiate their pushes. And just allow their members to get picks, and it especially works with this comp. You have double Slayer, 2 people who can actually capitalize on it. That's very good.
All right,
Tri-Strike's coming out.
Yeah, a very clean line down the back of plat there. Unfortunately, not finding anyone like they were hoping, but they've bought themselves a lot of space. They've got the turf, they've got the positioning. If
and they have
Kojuke
2
can
picks.
get Will here, ooh, a trade. That might not be a KO.
That might not be a KO, but that's still, you know, more pressure on Jakarta here. You know, you have that extra pity climb. Good lord, and they get another power climb and extending their lead to 11.
Ooh,
that might not be much, but it's
worth it. Just looking at it, that is a pseudo wipe against Sydney.
That is a tremendous time loss for Jakarta here.
That's
yes,
true.
they might be able to get They might be able to get mid, but you know, they have about, let's say, like 45 seconds left on the clock. 3 power climbs though. Not 3. 2 power climbs though, and that might certainly be enough. Link flanking around here together with Kaj, but Kaj unfortunately goes down, and Link is kind of facing a 3v1 situation here, and
Link
unfortunately goes down.
Time.
Yeah. Oh, that's why he's the GOAT,
We've got the Crab Tank firing onto plat now. That's going to allow Amy, Psycho, and Jack entrance. They do get the basket open, but they lose.
But it's 2 down
players in
here.
the process. They have another power
They're
climb,
able
it's
to
not
pick up
even
and save
enough.
that one, but it's a wipeout, and it's oh shit. And that
I mean,
is
look,
the
that
final
power
game
climb-
of the set.
That power climb would have brought them down to 14 remaining. It would have been incredibly hype if they landed it, but even then, it would not have been enough. It was just too much by Sydney Cyclones at the start. That's going to be a 4-0.
That is a Sydney sweep, baby. Holy.
Sydney priming themselves to potentially jostle for top spot or second spot with a few of the other teams in the league. They only need to win 1 more set, and they will put themselves in the top 3 nice and securely.
That was a pretty good set. That was an extremely dominant showing coming out from Sydney here. Dude, yeah, that was a really dominant showing. I don't know what to say.
I stand by, like, that Clams match and the Rainmaker match were quite close. We saw a lot of opportunities there for Jakarta, and they did capitalize and get some points. We saw some good plays from them, but in the end, they just couldn't handle Sydney's splats. They were constantly finding themselves at a player disadvantage, and it's very hard to make objective plays when you don't have players to do it.
Alright, well, now that the match is over, we can have a post-match interview with Sydney Cyclones, see what they think of it. Shall we do that?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. We've got Kazaz in chat saying they taught Ness everything they know. Let's not take credit for these amazing players' work. They earned this, fair and square.
They definitely earned that one, yeah.
All right, great. Let's jump into that chat.
Let's move into their VC, yeah.
Oh.
Sydney Cyclones, congratulations on your second win.
Yippee!
Thank you.
Thank you, Gassan.
Yeah, I mean, very dominant performance. We saw some very strong plays from your teams. A lot of wipeouts at very good moments. Yeah, I guess we'll just start off by let's I don't know how to start this one.
Yeah, man.
Played a very solid game.
That
Thank
was a really dominant showing over Jakarta, I feel.
All right, we'll kick things off with MGJ because I definitely know I definitely know what I want to say about this. Why so many? How did you get so many Krakens? What are you doing, man?
How many subs of special charge are you running? What the hell?
Well, yeah, it's
Ness
just a
doesn't
special
talk in into right. Never mind.
I can. It's simple. 2 subs, 1 main, special charge.
That's
I
it.
just-
What the hell?
I think for Kraken, usually if I can trade teammates, that gets enough paint. Like it's really not it's not that hard a special to get.
Oh, okay.
I
Because
see,
yeah, like
okay.
there was some tower control pushes where you got it twice in the same push.
Yeah.
And like there in that clams match as well, you were able to get it out on plat before and after the push had kicked off. Like you were doing some very good movement with that. One thing I did want to ask actually is in terms of, because we don't see a lot of Kraken play in Frostbite. How is your team coordinating around Kraken? What is your team doing to get the most use out of that special?
Yeah, are you guys like how do I say this? Are you guys like following up with the Kraken, you know, stuff like that?
Yeah,
Well,
it's definitely used as an initiator.
Yeah.
Alright.
I have tried to time it with the team, but I'll be honest, Lumi a lot of the time just tells me just spam Kraken when you have it. It's powerful enough that it can really just open up the map for the rest of the team to push in.
That's honestly a really fair statement. I gotta be real.
Makes sense.
A
I do
lot
have
of the
another
Kraken-
question.
A lot of Kraken-
Are your team competing for splats? Are you like taking note of who's getting the most? Because you are definitely the most splat hungry team that I've done analysis on.
Are
It's
we?
only Link. I'll be real.
But I didn't think we were.
Yeah,
It's the double slayer, I gotta be real.
We don't even have double slayer. Like it was.
No,
just
it's more of
because-
a your team is very good at coordinating around single points. So often I see that you move as a group a lot, and you're very tight knit, which means that you're often all attacking the same target. And from an outside perspective, it kind of looks like you're all fighting for that splat. I know that's exactly how it works. We're all dealing with like adding up damage and everything like that. But maybe you could tell us a bit about like how your team plans their movements and their pushes, and what kind of callouts you're using to make that kind of play happen.
Okay,
It's based a lot
I'll
around
be real.
Cooler.
Cooler makes
it's
sense.
Cooler.
true, but like the thing was that after like week 2 when we got that devastating loss, I just had like an epiphany of just fuck it. We just pop special and just walk up. Make sure we just stick together, play together. That's all it takes. No need to think too much. Just make sure we rely on each other. Basically.
Real monkey strat, but that's honestly fire.
I mean, like being able to set tactics aside and just focus on your mechanics means that as long as you're trusting each other, you can play better. So that totally makes sense. That's very very cool that
I
you've
agree.
adopted that style.
Yeah, we're a team that really enjoys just playing with each other. So it's
Hell
always
yeah.
just that trust, you know.
That's sick. Did you have any other questions, Coco?
Cat is calling for a Codge speech. Can we get a Codge speech?
Yes, please.
Huh?
Please.
What did I
It's
do?
Jace
One last
Flat.
post, please. One last post, please.
What the hell do you want me to say?
Please say yippee. Please say yippee.
Yeah.
That barely came through on Discord's audio compression.
Oh, that's
But
sad.
it was amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, I guess now
more
that
time for
you
the fans.
you've got
Oh.
2 wins under your belt, you only need 1 more win, and I believe you have to fight against Singapore to get
Yeah.
that spot. Both of your teams are sitting on 2 wins currently. Do you have any thoughts about that Singapore matchup coming? Anything you want to say if they're listening?
No thoughts. We're just looking at every
Bazooka with
match.
poetry's name on it.
Oh, okay. I like that. That's the kind of competitiveness I was hoping to bring out. Excellent. All right. Well, yeah. Thank you so much for the for your time, and congratulations on your win. Yeah. Looking forward to your match with Singapore next week.
Yeah, good luck, guys.
you.
That's crazy.
Thank you for casting.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
We
And
heart
thanks
you.
to the
much.
tournament organizers as well, because we didn't do that at the end of last stream, but man, this tournament has a very high production value, and it wouldn't be as good as it was without all the staff and commissioners. Yeah.
Yeah.
Alright.
I love Frostbite.
It has been a wonderful experience, and it's a shame that we only have 3 more weeks of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's
sure
gonna
they'll
do
be
it
back,
for
though.
tonight's stream, I imagine. Unless we have any last notes from our players.
Any last words, Sydney
Sydney
Cyclones?
strong. Sydney Strong.
Sydney Strong.
Strong.
Alright.
Okay.
One last thing.
I appreciate that
I
it's alliterative, unlike Melbourne Strong.
Melbourne
Yeah.
Strong.
Get out of here. Melbourne sucks.
Oh.
Get out of here. No, I'm joking. I love
One
Melbourne.
last
I
thing.
love Melbourne.
You
Yeah,
should
say like
be
one
saying
last thing.
Singapore sucks because it's also alliterative.
Oh, true, true, true.
Rude. Devastation.
Ooh, shit.
All right. Well, Coco, unless you have any last notes.
No, that's it for us today.
Great.
Thank you for watching the stream. Yeah.
Yes, big shout out to everyone who came out to watch this weekend. We've got one more week of our round robin matches next week, so be sure to tune back in for that. And then we go on to finals. We'll have our top 3 teams facing off to determine who is truly the frostbitiest of us all.
Who is the most frostbitten team?
That's much more grammatically correct. Thank you.
Keep that on my frost till I win. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
that's crazy.
Bye.
We'll cut the stream now. Thank you so much.